Thank you for joining me for this episode of God Talk. And in this episode of God Talk, I want to get you thinking about if you could just name whatever tools that you could keep around the house, let's say a handful of tools, to solve whatever problems that you would have around your house, what would they be for you? What are your go-tos when it comes to handling all the different things life throws at you when it comes to upkeep and repair around the house? For me, there's 4. The first is universal, I think, duct tape. I mean, you can use duct tape for anything, right? It just holds to almost everything. Doesn't necessarily last forever, but when you are in a pinch, it will get the job done. I remember I was driving back from Buffalo, New York one winter evening after going up there to visit my dad, who was sick at the time, and someone's tire tread was laying there on the road, and a vehicle up in front of me had kicked the tire tread up in the air, and it had hit my bumper in the air. And when it did, it knocked half my bumper off. It was a big piece of tire tread, and I had to pull over. And what do? Do I rip the whole bumper off? Do I drive? I was in like Ohio, so I had still quite a ways to go to get back to Texas. Well, you know what? That's where duct tape comes in. So I don't think I had any, but I ran to the local store at the next exit, bumper dragging on the ground, and bought some duct tape and duct taped my bumper back to my vehicle, and that's how I would drive for the next 1,000 miles with the duct tape holding my bumper into place. I mean, duct tape is a necessity around the house. Close to duct tape, I have a real appreciation for hot glue. Now, I'm not talking about the hot glue that your kids use for their arts and crafts at school. Many years ago, I had a guy that was working at some company that was going out of business, and he was the janitor of the church back when we were in the shopping center many years ago. And he brought me this hot glue gun. His company was just, hey, all these things were free for the taking, and he brought it to me. It's an industrial-sized glue gun. I have people come and put Christmas lights up, and they've got their little weenie glue guns, and so I always bring out my big glue gun with my glue sticks, and one guy was really impressed with it. He priced it. I don't know, it's like a $250, $300 glue gun. And it comes with these industrial glue sticks that I've bought a big box of them, and I've been using them for the last 10 years, and I probably am good for the next 10 years before I'll need to resupply it. But I'm here to tell you, like, if you have an industrial-sized glue gun, much like duct tape, not quite as good as duct tape, but, I mean, that sucker will keep things in place for quite some time. I know the trim around my kitchen cabinets were coming off at one point, and, you know, I could get some nails and try to get some finishing nails and kind of, you know, hammer that all back into place. But yeah, I just used my glue gun. So duct tape and glue guns are go-to for me. My third go-to for any guy, it's a hammer. I mean, listen, if something doesn't fit, if something doesn't work, something needs a little encouragement, you just pull out the hammer and you bang on it until it works. There's nothing like, you know, very technical about it, but man, I tell you what, hammers can do a lot for you. And then the fourth one, you know, maybe it surprised you, but listen, if you don't have like an appreciation for what my number 4 is, you need to gain an appreciation for it. And it's like Mighty Putty. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with it, but it's like a stick of putty, and there's like an inner part of it, and then there's like an outer part that's a different color. And what you do is you like pinch off like a certain amount of it, and then you just kind of mix it up with your fingers, and that mixes the outer ingredients with the inner ingredients, and it activates what will ultimately end up turning into cement like consistency, and it pretty much sticks to everything. Now, not every Mighty Putty sticks to everything. There's certain ones that stick to metal, certain ones that are all purpose, some of them that are plastic. There's some of them that are meant for boats and underwater. So you have to have the right stick for the right project, but I'm just telling you in general, even if you have to sit there and hold something, I mean, the fact that it's putty, it's not like glue. It won't slide off. That's the problem with Gorilla Glue or Super Glue. It's it may slide off while you're waiting for it to harden. Mighty Putty is putty, so it holds it into place while it hardens, and there's just an endless amount of applications for it. So for me, you can't go through life without having duct tape, an industrial size hot glue gun, a hammer, and Mighty Putty. Now, I bring this all up because we're entering into a new year, and there's certain qualities and characteristics that I think are essential for us, spiritually speaking and practically speaking, as we head into the new year. We can call these virtues. And it's interesting, the Catholics are the ones that kind of pioneered they've got the 7 deadly sins, but they also have 7 capital virtues. But it's actually more than that. They've got different kinds of virtues for different kinds of things. There's the cardinal virtues, which the cardinal virtues was first used by the 4th century theologian Ambrose, and he defined the 4 virtues as temperance, justice, prudence, and fortitude. Now, these were also named cardinal virtues by Augustine of Hippo, and it was adopted by the Catholic Church, and they describe them as human virtues. But what's interesting is even prior to Ambrose and his kind of coming up with these, they were identified all the way back by the Greek philosopher Plato as necessary characteristics and traits of a good man, and they're discussed by ancient authors such as Cicero. They can actually be found in the Jewish Book of Wisdom. That it speaks of them in slightly different terms, but they teach moderation, prudence, righteousness, and fortitude as being kind of the 4 qualities, but they pretty much are just echoes of, once again, temperance, justice, prudence, and fortitude. Then there's the theological virtues. So these are virtues that are different than the cardinal virtues, and it's really what Paul speaks about in 1 Corinthians when he says 3 things remain: faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. But that word love, because it has different meanings, thanks to the influence of the King James Bible, was referred to not as love but charity. So the theological virtues are basically faith, hope, and charity. Then you've got, from that later comes the 7 capital virtues. Now the 7 capital virtues are also known as the contrary or remedial virtues, and basically what they are is they're the opposite of the 7 deadly sins. And the first kind of writing of these different virtues comes in the 5th century, and these 7 virtues are chastity, faith, good works, concord, sobriety, patience, and humility. And then these virtues get tweaked a little bit by about 590, and it's Pope Gregory the First that tweaks the list a little bit, keeps some, changes some of the others, and the virtues then become chastity, temperance, charity, diligence, kindness, patience, and humility. So as we look for the different qualities and characteristics or different things to have around the house to kind of get through whatever might come your way, these virtues we would do well in the new year to develop, to build upon in ourselves. temperance, to have an even keel in how we look at things and how we approach things. Justice, that it's not about who our favorite is, or bribes or dishonesty, but that we uphold justice at all costs. Prudence, where we get the English word like a prude, that is, that there's qualities and characteristics and behaviors that are appropriate versus that which are not. It's not a compliment to be called a prude in the world, because the world does not embrace those qualities and characteristics that prudence would say is important. And then the last of the cardinal ones, fortitude, and that is life's messy sometimes, and you've got to have some fortitude. You got to be willing to stand up when the going gets tough, and be able to hold your ground and stick through it, and not run the other way, and not cave. These are the cardinal virtues that we would do well. If I've got my duct tape, hot glue gun, hammer, and mighty putty on the one side for my physical house, well, for my spiritual house, I think the cardinal ones are where it's at. The temperance, the justice, the prudence, and the fortitude. What's interesting is when we get to the theological virtues, that's the faith, hope, and love, which ultimately gets translated as charity, is it was believed that where cardinal virtues, that's something that man can achieve on its own. When it comes to faith, hope, and love, or faith, hope, and charity, it's not believed that you can develop that by a habitual practice, or doing things over and over, or working on it yourself. That you can't do it in your human nature apart from the assistance of God. And so we certainly see that with faith. Like we need God to give us faith and to help us to strengthen our faith. Now, that's not to say that we can't do certain things maybe to assist in that, but faith ultimately is something that God gives through the gift of His Holy Spirit. And it was also seen then that hope and charity are much the same. So it's interesting. I don't know that we would believe probably as much as is in the early church, or getting into before the Middle Ages. So somewhere between the early church and let's just say late in the early church period. They're saying that these could not be done without the help of God. I don't know that that's universally agreed upon nowadays, but to have true faith, certainly that's just with the help of God. To have the hope in Christ, which is tightly tied to faith, hope in the resurrection, the different things that as Christians we hold hope. We hold on to hope. Those are the things that come from God. And also charity. We really truly believe that it's the Holy Spirit that helps us to do good work. So even though we think we might take credit for these things, I tend to think that the early church was right in understanding that really, apart from God, we cannot do those three things on our own. And then ultimately you get to the seven virtues that are opposite of the cardinal sin, and we see that there's a slightly different list in the one versus the one that comes later. But the seven deadly sins are lust and gluttony and greed and sloth and envy and wrath and pride. Those are the latter versions of the seven deadly sins. But in that, rather than lust, that there would be that there would be chastity, and morality, if you will. Temperance is a cardinal virtue, but it also appears in the latter list of the capital virtues. And I talked about temperance in terms of having an even keel and so forth. It actually goes beyond that. Like it's in reaction to gluttony, which is a lack of control. So temperance isn't just like having kind of an even keel. It's really being in control of your emotions and your wants and your desires. Rather than greed, that we be about helping others. And so as we look spiritually to have the right tool set in the new year, we ought to focus on not so much what betters ourselves, but maybe what betters other people. I feel like sloth has become a greater one. If there was a problem with sloth in the early church in the 500s or so, I mean, how much more so do we have issues with sloth nowadays when, honestly, like, work has become a rarity. People don't want to work, and honestly, like, we don't have to work nearly as hard as we used to. The day and age is probably coming where robots are going to be working for us, or we're going to just own a car that will do the deliveries for us. And I mean, really, slothness is becoming a real problem again. But rather than that, we're called to diligence, to not be lazy and hard work. Envy, rather than being envious of others and other situations, the virtue is kindness. Maybe we can all work on a little bit more kindness in the world today. Certainly, as we enter into 2024, there's going to be more and more hostility towards different groups and different people as the world, and especially in our country, becomes more polarized, more divided. Maybe we can just work on a little bit more kindness. Rather than the sin of wrath, there's the virtue of patience. So rather than reacting, which once again, that's the world in which we live in, you punch me in the face, I'm going to punch you harder. It's kind of wrath, like, you've done this to me, I'm going to do that to you. Patience is a virtue that we would all do well to embrace a little bit more in the coming year. And rather than pride, humility. If we just had a little bit more humility in the world today, how different would the world be? But so many of us struggle with pride. So many of us we can't say that we're wrong because we're too proud to say that we're wrong. We can't accept things from other people because we're too proud to accept other things from people. Pride is a real problem in the world today. So I thought going into the new year, we should just maybe take a look at some of these virtues and where we get the different virtues and the different kinds of virtues in history, and maybe kind of put those out as tools that will help us to get through our daily life. I mean, honestly, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit this Sunday, 2024 stands to be a pretty ugly year. It's a presidential year. A bunch of things are going to come up during presidential years to try to divide people because that's just how politics works. That aside, it could get messy. So we've got to have the right tools to be able to handle it. And when we look at these virtues, they're the spiritual equivalent of having your hammer, your duct tape, your hot glue gun, and ultimately your mighty putty. It will get you through whatever you need to get through in life. I hope all of you have a blessed New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and I look forward to talking to you in the new year. God bless and have a great one.